Hi everyone, it's Ruby G.
And I'm Joff.
Welcome to Truth and Neurons. Today we're going to critique Ashley Banfield's commentary.
Ashley Banfield's commentary on Brian Kohberger's courtroom photographs represents something far more dangerous than poor journalism. It's systematic poisoning of public opinion that undermines the very foundations of our justice system. When media personalities engage in body shaming and mock neurodivergent behaviours, they don't just harm their target, they corrupt the minds of potential jurors and transform normal human behaviour into evidence of guilt in the court of public opinion.
He's flexing, he's shirtless in front of the mirror in so many of the pictures. Originally, I thought it was just one. I thought it was just one picture with a new pair of jeans, and he was admiring his butt, or at least looking if his ass looked fat in those jeans.
Banfield's approach follows a predictable pattern of dehumanization that we've seen throughout history when society seeks to otherize individuals.
Dehumanization is the process of slowly moving people out. A group of people that a leader has told us here is the cause of all your pain and suffering. But they're within this moral protective zone that we have as humans. So slowly over time, we start using words and images of them that dehumanize them, that move them slowly and slowly and slowly into what we call moral exclusion. They no longer are protected by what we believe is human basic rights.
This dehumanizing language that Banfield is using speaks more about who Banfield is than what it does about the person that she's dehumanizing or railing against.
I'm still interested in Dahmer. I'm still interested in BTK. I'm still interested in John Wayne Gacy. I want to know how they tick, why they did these things. What are they like? How are they so different from us? Because otherwise, if we did nothing, we'd be lambs to slaughter. And we may just be anyway. But I'm going to do my damnedest to try to figure out every motherfucking thing about people like this. So the photos are all we have to go on.
Perhaps the most revealing aspect of this coverage is the stark double standard it exposes. The Idaho victims and their surviving roommates regularly posted selfies from various angles, including photos highlighting their bodies. This was rightfully understood as typical college-age social media behaviour, young people exploring their identity, having fun and documenting their lives. Yet when Kohberger engages in virtually identical self-photography, taking pictures of himself from different angles, the exact same behaviour is suddenly reframed as an evidence of narcissism, deviance or worse. Playful self-documentation that was considered normal in the victims becomes creepy and disturbing when performed by the accused. It isn't analysis, it's prejudicial reinterpretation based solely on his status as a defendant. We're witnessing the same human behaviours being judged through completely different moral frameworks, depending on whether we're meant to sympathise with or demonise the person performing them. And as someone who is also neurodivergent, I'm fucking sick of it.
Body shaming serves a specific psychological function in society's need to create others, people so fundamentally different from us that whatever happens to them feels justified. By focusing obsessively on Kohberger's physical appearance and personal habits, media figures like Banfield make it psychologically easier for viewers to see him as deserving of punishment regardless of actual evidence. This process of dehumanization follows predictable patterns. First, normal behaviours are reframed as abnormal. Self-soothing becomes weird fidgeting. Playful self-expression becomes disturbing behaviour. Physical symptoms of stress or medical conditions become character flaws. Once someone has been successfully othered in this way, the public finds it easier to assume their guilt and dismiss their rights. The cruelty of this approach extends far beyond its immediate target. When media personalities mock autism spectrum behaviours, they wound every viewer who recognises these traits in themselves or their loved ones. When they shame men for taking selfies or caring about their appearance, they reinforce toxic masculinity that damages male mental health. When they pathologise normal young adult behaviours, they create fear and shame around healthy self-expression.
The most dangerous aspect of Banfield's commentary isn't the cruelty, it's potential to corrupt the justice system itself. Every person who watches these segments and absorbs these prejudicial narratives becomes a potential juror carrying contaminated thinking into the courthouse. When media coverage focuses on a defendant's appearance, mannerisms and personal characteristics rather than, well, fucking evidence, it creates what psychologists call the halo effect in reverse. A tendency to judge all aspects of a person negatively once we've formed an initial negative impression. Potential jurors exposed to this type of coverage may unconsciously connect Kohberger's neurodivergent behaviours with guilt, making it nearly impossible for them to evaluate evidence objectively. This contamination process is particularly insidious because it operates below conscious awareness. Jurors who have been exposed to body-shaming coverage may genuinely believe they're being objective, while unconsciously influenced by prejudicial narratives they've absorbed. They may interpret his autism-related behaviours as suspicious, or his physical appearance as somewhat relevant to his guilt or innocence.
Yeah, I don't think there's any halos here.
Know him to be behind those dead eyes, but now he actually shows himself that way. I have no idea why he took this picture. No clue why, but there's a couple of different angles of it. Very bizarre.
The impact on parents of neurodivergent children is particularly heartbreaking. They watch their children's normal developmental patterns being mocked and pathologized, wondering if their kids will face similar prejudice simply for existing authentically in the world.
Lindsay, is this the one? Are we zeroed in on this one? It's where he's checking his ass out in the new jeans, in the new dark jeans. Is this like a close-up or is this a different shot?
This is unfortunately a different shot.
This is another shot of...
Yes.
Yeah. His face is so, like, I don't know, pathetic. This is... There's a series of these. I didn't realize that. When I saw the first one, I didn't realize there's a whole series of him checking out his butt in these new jeans that he bought. He's still got the price tag on him. God help anybody out there if he returned them and someone else is wearing them. Or I mentioned this on my last night's podcast. I wonder if he's out purchasing clothes for the murders or stealing clothes for the murders so that there's no sign of a purchase.
So Banfield's focus on Kohberger's apparent weight loss and physical deterioration reveals another layer of her problematic approach. If he is indeed struggling with an eating disorder, as his appearance might suggest, her commentary amounts to publicly mocking someone's medical crisis. Eating disorders are serious mental health conditions, not character flaws or sources of entertainment, and they often develop in response to trauma, stress, loss of control, which would make perfect sense given his circumstances. Yet, instead of approaching this possibility with the medical seriousness it deserves, Banfield treats his psychological changes somehow relevant to his guilt or innocence. Now seriously, who is the monster? The medicalisation of suffering serves the same dehumanising function as the rest of her bullshit commentary. By presenting his struggles as evidence rather than as human pain deserving of compassion, it makes it easier for viewers to see him as a problem to be solved rather than a person deserving of fair treatment. So, let's talk about the ripple effect. The damage from this type of coverage extends far beyond any individual case. When body shaming and prejudicial speculation become normalised in media coverage, given the audience that these channels do get, they poison the entire well of public discourse about justice and human rights. Viewers who consume this trash content learn it's acceptable to judge people based on their appearance, their coping mechanisms, and their neurodivergent traits. They absorb the message that certain types of people, the other, those who look different or act differently or cope differently, are inherently more likely to be guilty of crimes. This contamination spreads through social media, workplace conversations, family discussions. It shapes how people think about difference, about mental health, about what makes someone worthy of compassion or deserving of condemnation.
The solution to this poisoning of public opinion isn't censorship. It's demanding higher standards from media personalities and holding them accountable when they fail to meet those standards. Journalism should illuminate truth, not obscure it with prejudice and body shaming. Media coverage of criminal cases should focus on evidence, legal proceedings, and factual developments. Personal speculation about defendants' appearances, behaviours, or psychological states should be recognised as a prejudicial contamination it represents. As consumers of media, we have the power to reject content that dehumanises and demeans. We can choose not to engage with coverage that treats human suffering as entertainment or that mocks neurodivergent behaviours as suspicious.
What we're witnessing with Banfield's coverage is not journalism, it's pack mentality, pack behaviour. Like wolves sensing wounded prey, media personalities identified Koberger as acceptable prey for public consumption. Cruel mockery, the body shaming, the pathologizing of normal behaviours, these are the behaviours of a pack, not professional journalists. This pack mentality is contagious. Once one media figure establishes someone is fair game for dehumanization, others follow suit, each trying to outdo the previous cruelty to capture audience attention. The target becomes less human with each attack, making increasingly vicious commentary feel justified. The psychology of pack behaviour explains why rational people can engage in collectively cruel actions they would never consider individually. Each member of the pack feels absolved of personal responsibility because they're simply following the group's lead. Banfield isn't just engaging in body shaming, she's at the head of a pack that encourages viewers to join in collective dehumanization. She should be turned off, shut down, and sent home.
The celebration of his supposed guilt that runs through her commentary is perhaps the most disturbing aspect. She doesn't just report on his appearance. She seems to take pleasure in his suffering, treating his physical and mental deterioration as a form of cosmic justice rather than human tragedy, regardless of his guilt or innocence. This gleeful approach to human suffering is something troubling about both the commentator and the audience she serves. It suggests a public hunger for punishment that supersedes concern for truth or justice, a desire for retribution that makes actual guilt or innocence almost irrelevant. Instead, it appears designed to cement public perception of his guilt and depravity so thoroughly that any future appeal becomes psychologically impossible for the public to accept. This represents a calculated form of malice, the deliberate poisoning of public opinion to ensure that even if legal proceedings reveal problems with this case, the court of public opinion remains permanently closed. By making Koberger appear so fundamentally other and disturbing, media figures like Banfield may be attempting to inoculate public opinion against any future revelations that might complicate the narrative of his guilt.
The continued media assault, despite the plea agreement, reveals the most sinister aspect of this coverage. It may be designed to make any future appeal practically impossible, regardless of its legal merit. If new evidence emerges, if procedural errors are discovered, if constitutional violations are revealed, the poisoned public opinion created by this relentless bullshit character assassination ensures that any attempt to revisit this case will be met with outrage rather than consideration. This is a fundamental corruption of the justice system. Appeals exist precisely because human judgment is fallible, because evidence can be misinterpreted, because procedural errors occur. But when media coverage has so thoroughly demonised a defendant that reconsidering their case becomes politically and socially impossible, pack mentality ensures anyone who later questions the case or suggests procedural problems will themselves become targets of the mob. Anyone online creating content about this case have also been subject to this. Defence attorneys, appellate judges, even journalists who might later investigate potential problems with the case, they know they risk becoming the pack's next target if they dare humanise someone who has been so thoroughly othered.
Ashley Banfield's commentary on Brian Koberger represents everything that's wrong with modern media coverage of criminal cases, but it's worse than simple poor journalism. It's pack behaviour designed to permanently close the door on justice by focusing on body shaming rather than evidence, by pathologizing neurodivergent behaviours and celebrating suffering rather than seeking truth. She leads a mob that threatens the very foundations of our legal system. The continuation of this assault, even after the plea deal, reveals its true malice. The systemic poisoning of the public opinion to ensure that justice becomes impossible, that appeals become unthinkable, that any future consideration meets immediate pack resistance. Whether Koberger is guilty or innocent of these crimes alleged, He deserves better than this cruel spectacle. More importantly, we as a society deserve better than media coverage that operates like a pack of predators hunting wounded individuals for public entertainment while systemically destroying the possibility of future justice.
The real crime here may not be what happened in Idaho. It's what's happening in newsrooms and living rooms across America and the world, where presumption of innocence is being murdered by pack psychology, and the right to appeal is being strangled by strategic malice disguised as commentary. Until we recognise and reject this pack behaviour masquerading as journalism, we'll continue to see justice corrupted by mob mentality and the possibility of truth destroyed by those who profit from permanent condemnation.
That's all for today's episode of Truth and Neurons. If you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on the ethics of media commentary in high-profile cases. Until next time, keep thinking critically and questioning everything. Cheers, bye.